Good evening to all our participants present at the webinar. I, Faraz Wadwania, on behalf of Devex, Startup News FYI, the Startup Labs, and all our support partners, welcome you all to the event Business Growth Opportunities during COVID 19. We request you to kindly rename yourself to the name surname format to be able to recognize you better. I will try my best to put forth your questions to our esteemed panelists. To take the session further, let us first understand why did we choose this particular topic. Every slump should be taken as an opportunity to bounce back, to grow, and to innovate. Let me share with you names of few companies that didn't exist until the 2007 recession. Instagram, Snapchat, Slack, WhatsApp, Pinterest, Uber are a few to name. We all use them in our day-to-day life. With this webinar, we will try to understand various growth opportunities to capitalize on during the lockdown. Moving ahead, I would now like to introduce you to our esteemed panelists of the day. Welcome Ms. Sucharita Reddy. Ms. Sucharita Reddy is the co-founder of Mera Cashier, which has recently raised funding from the founders of Startup Buddy. She has extensive experience previously working with Amazon and Jabong. The next is Mr. Yash Shah. Mr. Yash Shah is the CEO and co-founder of Griddle that was incubated at CII IIM Ahmedabad and has raised 3 rounds of funding. His startup Griddle also made it to Highway to 100 Unicorns by Microsoft India. The next we have on the panel is Mr. Lalit Agarwal. Mr. Lalit Agarwal is the founder of F5 Refreshments that is creating a unique aggregated infrastructure for workplace retail by organizing local refreshment vendors. The startup has raised funding from Let's Ventures. Now, I would like to open the arena for our speakers. First of all, I request all the panelists out here to briefly share their growth stories, focusing on the founding team, how did it all begin, the funding they received, and the milestone they have hit. First of all, Yash, I would like to start it with you.
Sure. So thank you Faraz for inviting me and having me today. So a very quick introduction. Basically, I have 2 other co-founders, me, Abhishek, and Anupama, and 3 of us have been friends since school, and we were always working on side projects on school and college, and then even after college, and when we were at our different jobs as well. And one of the things that we realized was that it was taking a lot of effort in just having to work together, right? So we were using a host of different tools to work together. We were using Skype, email, WhatsApp, Facebook, Dropbox to kind of work together. And we realized that, as 3 friends who are trying their hobby projects are facing this difficulty of working together, then companies that are actually building bridges and buildings and stuff like that, they might also be having a similar issue. So we started with that as a premise that enterprise collaboration is broken as of now. And with that premise, we started researching, and over a period of the next 3 years, we kind of pivoted our way into essentially building a customer lifecycle management software for agencies and freelancers, where we help them manage their leads, proposals, contracts, projects, help desk, support ticketing, invoicing, and then revenue realization. So we've raised 3 rounds of funds. As you mentioned, our first round was from CII, which is the incubator at IIM Ahmedabad. That was about 10 lakhs, which was when we were at our idea stage. The second round that we raised was from a group of angels. And that was about 65 lakhs. And the third round that we've raised and closed recently is about 6 crores from a VC. We are about 44 people now, 44 people team now, serving close to 50,000 odd users globally, about 1,600 enterprise clients. And our largest markets are Australia, Europe, and Southeast Asia. So I think that kind of pretty much sums up a little bit of introduction about us and the organization.
Great, Yash. Thank you so much. Now, Sucharita, I would request you to share in your story and your part of milestones, fundings, and achievements that your startup has done.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. Very good afternoon. So I and like we are three co-founders who run Mera Cashier, and it's a digital Bahi Khata for that matter. Like to put it in a one-line sentence, it's for any person who uses a manual Bahi Khata, he can actually use Mera Cashier and reduce his time and effort and increase efficiencies for in that matter. So the way we started was I and Sunil know each other for the past 8 years. Both of us had worked in Jabong for a long time, and both of us used to report to our CFO at that point of time. And we used to work on a lot of automation projects, like automating the entire multiple processes in finance and in other verticals, I would say. So that's how we had worked very closely, and we knew how automation can help any businessman for that matter. So that is how we are pro automation people. And the second, there were a couple of instances we started, I remember one instance very clearly, like that made us look at this space more keenly. Was one of our personal accounts was stuck with one of our local grocers, and it was close to 25,000, and it was not the intent of not getting the reconciliation done. It was only the time and effort that the reconciliation has never happened. And we also saw how relationships are such, businesses basically in tier 3 cities run on relationships. And retention, like credit, people give credit so that they can retain customers, retain relationship with their customers. The only problem with maintaining credit is the ledger, how to record and recovery. So recording the credit and recovery are the two biggest pains. And then when we started exploring the market, we spoke to Vinod again. Vinod, even though all of us were working at different places, we still got in touch with each other and spoke about this entire space again. And we thought, like, let's give it a shot. And then we spoke to Gaurav also. We got him onboarded by January 2019. And by February, we had started working on it. And by July, we launched. So, our initial funding was with friends and family, I would say, like Vinod Aprol had also invested in our company. And along with that, some of our ex seniors, like people to whom we have reported in our earlier companies, they have invested, and a couple of friends. So the total, and the last round, Startup Buddy that Faraz mentioned, Startup Buddy has invested in us. And post Startup Buddy, we raised another round, and Sukhbir Singh, the Bollywood singer, so he has also invested. The total investment that we have is 400K USD right now. So I guess that's about our journey. And
Great, Suchitra. Look forward to host you at the event. Lalit, now I would like you to share your journey with the attendees that we have here, so that everyone gets to know for what reason you guys are panelists out here, and how you can, help them finding different business growth opportunities and solutions to their problems.
Great, great. Thanks a lot, first of all, to organize this talk. So it's a great pleasure to be here. So I and Raghav. So Raghav was my senior from IIM Lucknow. So I graduated in the year of 2018, and Raghav was my senior from IIM Lucknow. So just after my graduation from IIM Lucknow, we started this journey. So two good things happened at that point was, so one was I got internship opportunity for 4 months. It was a student exchange program in Europe. So over there, we realized that all the industries are organized, and we saw a completely different market, which India is going to be. And second thing was I got PPO offer very early in my MBA. So after first year, I got this PPO offer. So I had complete 1 year to think about what I should be doing in my life post this MBA. So during this time, we talked multiple ideas, and the idea we select. So out of multiple ideas, we selected one idea. Raghav left his job. He came to Lucknow, and in the Lucknow market, we did the pilot of this opportunity. So I believe one of the most important factor while choosing which things to work in is the time. So time at which one there are a lot of wave, a lot of startups, a similar type of startups goes in a particular time frame. So we realize this is the time in which every unorganized real estate is getting organized. Oyo is organizing the hospitality sector, Lenskart, the optical segment. So every real estate sector was getting organized. There are a lot of players. Recently, there was a deal between Jio and the Facebook to organize which will help them organize the household retail. So one of the market that we identified was the workplace retail. So when we went in the market, when we realized how the local shops, which are traditionally in the workplace, they are not running very efficiently. So most of, for example, the basic refreshment, which is tea. So they are preparing it in an open. They are using plastic bags for the packing part, and most of them don't have the capex. Most of them, as correctly identified by Suchitata, that they don't maintain ledger. So these businesses are not running very efficiently. Then we tested our business model to some of the shops over there, and we increased their earnings by approximately 30 to 40% within 2 or 3 months. Then we realized that these guys have the massive potential, and the customers' habits are changing. Customers are becoming more brand conscious. They are going towards more hygienic ways. They want good products, good services on those shops. But these shops are not able to cope up with those changes. So we realized that we can bridge between the gap between the customer's expectation and the supplier side. So that is something that we are doing right now. So it's been 2 years, and 2 months back we closed our first round. So it was a 3.5 CR round in which there are a lot of good entrepreneurs, venture capitalists, startup buddy, and Let's Venture participated in this round. So it was and we were frankly fortunate to close this deal just before this epidemic started. So right now we are in a good position in which we are strategizing a lot of things, and I think yes, that is from my side.
Great, thank you so much, Lalit. Now I would like to throw a few questions at our panelists, starting with you, Yash. During this lockdown, how can young entrepreneurs work on their idea or their MVP and can kickstart their business to get the initial traction?
Okay. There are a couple of things, right? So, so first is that if you're at so this is a time when I would urge that you may want to look at as much as possible. You may want to look at survival through this time frame and not necessarily focus right away on growth if you're an early stage company, right? So if you're an early stage company, it comes with a lot of assumptions. So a couple of assumptions are that that the proof of concept might not be there, or that all the assumptions may not have been validated, right? So if you're a little late stage company where you already know who your customers are, you already have an internal process, you already have all of those things, then this is a great time to go ahead and start growing, right? But if you are pre kind of product or traction stage, then the idea should be at this point of time to validate as many assumptions as possible, right? So focus as much as possible on building and doing research, right? So that is one. However, there are a couple of factors that might help at this point of time in terms of growth, right? So as an example, if you look at, so since people are spending a lot of time at their home, the ad inventory of digital ad platforms has increased, right? So it's a lot more. And because of that, the prices of running ads, so something as simple as click-through rates or cost for 1,000 impressions, they've reduced on, I mean, it is different for different keywords, but on an average they've reduced by 40%, right? So what previously you would pay like 100 rupees for 1,000 clicks, now you've got to pay somewhere around 60-65 rupees, right? So the cost of acquiring your customers or cost of at least branding or telling people that you exist out there has reduced a lot. So that is one. Second is that this scenario also offers you to position yourself in a different way, right? So as an example, one of the things that we did at Griddle was that, so our target market is digital agencies and companies that offer professional services, right? So IT service, digital marketing, HR, and so on and so forth, right? So one of the things that we started doing was we started building a community around how can agencies help each other. We started offering a discount on our product so that it could help their subscription costs, help our customers' subscription costs. We started doing webinar series around how other agencies are dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic and so on and so forth, right? So positioning yourself in a way that you're helping your customers learn and grow and understand as to how other people in their same ecosystem are dealing with the crisis helps as well. Right? So these are a couple of pointers that I would recommend, but I would recommend only and only if you already have a proof of concept that exists and processes that are set. The other aspect of it is that while your sales pipeline, so let's say if you're a B2B company much like us, right? So while your sales pipeline may not close because people are not wanting to spend right now, but since people have a lot of time at their hands, this is a great time to reach out and demo your product to them, right? So currently their attention is not divided amongst 10 other things, right? So if they're looking out for a product or a software or anything that you're offering right now, then this is a great time to essentially start building top of the funnel of your sales pipeline, right? So you'll not see enough conversion at the bottom of the funnel because people don't want to pay right now. So the sales cycle will be longer. However, the top of the funnel can be actually made much broader, right? At this point of time. So these are a couple of pointers that I have on how can an early stage company or a company that's offering product or service may look to grow at this point of time.
Great, Yash. Thank you so much for your insights. Some learning for the startups and founders who are looking for going out in the market, setting up their new businesses, working on their ideas and MVP. Now, I would quickly like to know from Suchatra, should businesses focus on new products or services type, or should they work on growing their offerings within their product type?
Uh, See, there is no one particular formula for anyone. It depends on the market and the customer requirement. Like, for example, this COVID, the situation that we all are in now, there are so many opportunities in healthcare. Like if someone, working on a, suppose, product that is dealing with safety or like a sanitizer sort of product, then he might come up with different lines of that product, like maybe gel based or some differentiations can happen at that point. But then if there is some other player in the same market, like in the market, and it doesn't for example, if it's a kirana store, and he's okay in getting digital so that he can take orders via WhatsApp and deliver them, then it's slightly different. For both the different businesses, the timing, the opportunities play a big role on how they want to pivot their businesses so that they can get more revenue or more customers. The current situation is a very turbulent time, and pivoting might be a necessity for many organizations for that matter. And pivoting is actually a part of life, I would say. So whether it's in the same vertical or a slightly different vertical, it's all up to it depends on the resources that you have, the way you can manage, and the revenue potential also. For a small time gain, you need not make a revolutionary change. But then if it's a long term gain that you are seeing, and if it's a step by step change, then you might as well invest in it. Like for example, digitization. Digitization will eventually happen at the kirana stores as well. So, and this is a good opportunity right now for all the kirana stores to get digital, start taking orders via Google spreadsheets or via Google Forms, via WhatsApp, and then start catering to them as well. And there are multiple apps also which provide billing and invoicing facilities as well. So and for others, a slight shift can also work. So all in all, there's no one set formula. It has to be looked at different parameters: the market potential, the change involved, the capability or the technology changes that involve, and then obviously the road ahead, or like what do you call yeah, as I mentioned, the market potential in the first thing. Sorry. Yeah.
Uh, Thank you so much, Sucharita. So the takeaway for everyone here is look at how your business operates, look at the sector that you are working into, the way your market is behaving. Try to see if adding a product into current product type would be helping, or you should go about extending the product with and going ahead, launching up different products as a part of your long-term strategy. Invest wisely into your products because the products that you build should last longer. Now I would take this up to Lalit. Lalit, could you please help the participants understand how do you foresee the hospitality, travel and tourism segment? Some suggestions for the businesses into these industry or the industries that have hit hard, how they can bounce back using the strategies.
Okay, okay. So, as you correctly pointed out, so this is some of the very last sectors, those will be opening up. But this can also be seen very differently because there are a lot of different segments are there within India. For example, the cities like Delhi or Mumbai, so the mega cities will be the last one to open things up. And but for example, in my parents stay in Tripura, so there's not a single case which is there right now. So there are a lot of uh, places where this restriction will ease out early as compared to other places. And this work from home phenomena, so there are a lot of consumers habits, a lot of consumer preferences are changing right now. So so I don't think the traditional ways in which these industry was operating, you need to think about in those ways. You can think about something different. For example, some of my friend were discussing about, so if I have to work, so let's say if after some point of time there might be a uh, there might be some move away from restriction in Delhi NCR. So people might work from home, but they might to prefer work from home from somewhere else, not in Delhi. They might want to stay at some other location, maybe in some hilly areas for 1 or 2 months, and they want to work from home that place. So people are discussing and people want some move out from this place, but exactly how it is going to happen, people need to spot it on. And these new opportunities in this segment can be catered by out of the box thinking. So not in the traditional way, but I believe there are a lot of changes that will be coming up uh, by different ways. For example, there was one more article I was reading about New Zealand. So New Zealand, I think they right now they have their 1 or 2 cases of coronavirus, and the New Zealand guys are opening their, because 10% of their economy is dependent on the travel and tourism. Similarly, Australia is another country in which they have taken very huge steps, and there are also very less cases in Australia. So I think within a week or two, these two countries will open up their restrictions. So this might also happen once there is a bit less restriction on India in India. So people might move from one region to another specific region. So there might not be a travel from Delhi to, let's say, a remote state, but travel from a specific geography to some specific geography can be there. So people might have to tweak their business model according to the broader picture that will be coming up.
Great, great. Thank you so much, Lalit, for your insights out here. Now, I would like to go back to Yash. And since Yash, you mentioned that have you guys started working together, just want to understand from you how do you see the work from home as a cost saving strategy for the startups with smaller teams? And could you please suggest some ways how they can do this effectively and grow themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. So there are so work from home. Actually, we've been around for about 5 years now, and we never worked from home before, right? And so that was essentially because we were, as an organization, we were a little nervous as to what might happen, and how do you keep track whether people are working or not, and so on and so forth, right? And so if you're a small team, like 5 or 6 people team, it may not be a challenge, but as in when you grow to 30, 40, 50 people, it starts to become challenge because there are multiple levels of hierarchy, right? And so we never just gotten around to working from home, but so this happened, which essentially forced us to do that. And so starting point. So the question was, how do we monitor whether people are working or not? So the starting point was, instead of bringing in any sort of monitoring tools, let's just start with trust, right? So let's trust other people, and then let's see where it goes. And we actually started working from home since, I think, 15th of March, even though lockdown was announced a little later. But till today, one of the things that I'm seeing is that it has actually improved productivity than what used to happen in the office, right? So in the office, as it turns out, however, ironically, there were more distractions than what people, on an average, have at their own home. There are a lot of other advantages in the sense that people are able to work at their flexible hours and so on and so forth, which can be found on blogs as well. But in terms of the tech, in terms of the tool stack that we use, it's essentially a mix of Zoom, Slack, and Git, right? And so here are the three kind of core things that we use to make sure that we are delivering more and more releases on the product as well. Another kind of a side benefit that I had not considered is also this, that now I'm paying rent for the office, yes, but I'm now not paying any electricity bills, right? I'm not paying chai, coffee. I'm not paying all of those costs, right? Saaf safai ka cost and all of that. So there's some amount of overheads that has been taken away, right? So that has actually cut costs for us as well, and that too significantly, right? So the other thing that I would recommend is that working from home is great. So let's say if you're working, and there are two parts of your of the work that you do, right? So the first part is where you've got to come up with ideas, brainstorm, have discussions, and come to conclusions, right? And so these discussions and brainstorming and whiteboarding sessions, they may not have a binary answer, right? It may not be as simple as black or white. And so genuine amount of conversations need to go into it, genuine amount of context has to be built around it. And then the second part is where you're doing work that is task related, right? So you have a very clear point A, you have a very clear point B, and then you've got to go A1, A2, A3, and then you arrive at your main point. So one of the things that I realized is that work from home is, at least for us, work from home is great for the second part, right? Where the task is absolutely defined, that this is how it is right now, and this is how it should be. For that, work from home works best. For the first bit, which is where you've got to have genuine discussions and conversations and build context, it's proving a little difficult as of now to make those decisions. However, if you are willing to go on to longer meetings and forget that you are not in physical proximity, I think you can overcome that as well. And so that's basically how we've adopted working from home. And for smaller teams, it's actually even more easy, right? Because the decision making is much more quicker. You don't have to like talk to 3 people before making a smaller decision, and then 3 people don't need to be available at the same time, and so on and so forth. So it only gets easier as in when you get smaller.
Thank you so much, Yash, for your insights. 2 things to take from here, the 2 points that Yash have highlighted. One is you should start trusting your team when you're working from home. That's important for you at this point of time. And the second thing, the work from home becomes easier when you guys have a task that could be tracked. The places where the task couldn't be tracked, long meetings could help you guys. And so never forget the rule 1, that is trusting your team. If the task is not, you are not able to track the task. Now throwing my questions at Sucharita, how can businesses effectively leverage benefits of digital marketing and more so social media to grow their business in the current times?
Yeah, so currently I would say digital marketing is the thing to do. Like, how will you connect with your customer? You cannot go offline and connect, right? So digital marketing has to be focused on right now via emails, via SMSs, via any other WhatsApp, like, via Facebook, like, companies can do this Facebook live sessions once in a while and address those, the concerns if they have an active customer base, then and intimate those customers that we are doing a Facebook live. Then a lot of customers, and now is the time to engage with your customers, because now they'll have the time away from their day-to-day jobs, and they might be able to focus on what you are actually trying to tell them, how your product is going to benefit them. Now you'll be able to engage with them much better than any other time, I would say. So I understand that, businesses have taken a huge setback because of COVID, but then having said that, let's look at the opportunities that this time is posing. So it's a good time to connect with them, retain them, engaged with them, like send app notifications if possible. So these are some of the ways that I have been talking, but then otherwise, there are some free mediums are definitely the first ones, since a startup will be cash conservative at least. So try to use all those tools to the maximum efficiency, like be it Facebook or WhatsApp, making WhatsApp groups if possible of the customers so that they can interact, or if one of the team members can join them and give them tips on a daily basis. So those things can be done. You can actually tie up with influencers, because a lot of times what happens, if some third party comes and tells about your product, that it's a good product, then it leaves a good impression with the audience. So that can be looked at if influencer marketing is something that can be invested in, I would say. So that is one digital marketing technique, at least for that matter. And it helps actually reaching to the right audience. But yeah, digital marketing actually starts with content and the audience that you want to target. So the starting point will have to be the content, like as crisp, as precise that you can make it, and sharing those creatives at the right places, like via Google or Facebook, via the locations, specific locations, or the specific places where your target audiences would most likely be present. So so all in all, I would say, like, good time to be digitally active. The costs are low, take advantage of that. And yeah, actually it's the CACs have reduced, as Yash had mentioned, the CACs have actually reduced for most of the players, I would say. And good time to capitalize on that. And yeah, the one good focus has to be stay in touch with your customer, engage with them no matter what. And things will definitely go in your favor.
Sucharita, I would like to know from you at least 3 digital marketing strategies or platform that you have been using, and how do you use effectively for your own business?
So as I mentioned, influencer marketing is something that we have we have done that in the past, and it has given us good results, I would say. So, and the other techniques is Facebook live. We do multiple, earlier at least we were very active. Even after COVID, I would say we have done one Facebook live, and we have seen the engagement better during the COVID times, during the lockdown times, because we realized this, people are not going to their shops and they are able to take time out to listen to us and ask us their questions. So it has been a very interactive Facebook live for us, I would say. And the third, yes, we do send notifications, we do send SMSs, and a lot of things like notifications is one thing. It also depends on like for us, emails wouldn't work. Like, I don't expect the small businessman in a tier 3 city to have an email account or check his email account daily and read what I send. So it makes more sense for him to for us to send WhatsApp or SMSs with YouTube links, wherein we keep on regularly adding new videos, mentioning what new features have been added, like a tutorial sort of thing. And obviously other creatives like small ads or small banners that we run. So our Facebook, and one more thing I would want to add here is we have tried to add ourselves to many retail associations across the country. Like we are part of more than 200 retail trade associations via Facebook and other mediums. So that is one thing that people can look at.
Thank you so much, Sucharita, for your insights. And Sucharita has well shared with us some growth hacks that they have been using for their own business to grow their customer base as well as retain their existing clients. Lalit, would you like to share a few growth hacks from your end as to what works for your business and what not?
Okay, so right now we are focusing so at F5. So it's been 2 months we close our round. So we are utilizing this time to build strong processes in our business. So previously, with the pressure from the investors, so there was a lot of pressure was on us to grow the sales part without fixing the basic things right. So this time we are utilizing for the tech development, for the lot of integrations to make the systems perfect, so that when the things open up, we are in a much stronger position to handle the surge in demand. So previously we were experiencing that we can increase the demand, but the systems are not stronger enough to take those demands. So people can utilize this time to make their system stronger, so that once things opens up, they are in a better position to increase their market exponentially, and their systems are stronger enough to take that surge in demand. But there I think a lot of participants are there who want to start their business, and they want to think about how in a particular cash position. So let's say I have this sort of amount, and this is the amount from which I can do the MVP kind of thing. So I'll advise those guys to think clearly about who are their customers, and what hypothesis that they should be testing. First of all, create those hypotheses, create those experiments, and experiment in a particular geography or in a particular market. So there are a lot of things from my experience which we did wrong. So in the last 2 years, when we started things in Lucknow, then we moved to Delhi. Then we realized Lucknow was not the market in which we should have started with. Again, when we came to Delhi, so in Delhi, we started with Karol Bagh market. So it is not a very, not a very at the forefront. So we should have started with the marketplace like SouthX or Nehru Place, where by customers are not the laggard one. So they are the customers who the cost of acquisition is very less, retention is very high for those customers. So they are the early adopters for your product. So
sorry to interrupt you, Lalit. Would like to specify the question more. I mean, could you please share in how the growth hacks that you've been currently using as an online model to reach out to your customers and helping your company with the customer retention?
Right. So I think, as Sucharita mentioned out, we are trying multiple digital strategies. For example, one of them that we are using is SMS marketing. So identified 5 areas in which we want to grow in the next 6 months. So in those markets, we are reaching out to our customer using SMS marketing, in which we are making them aware of our product and services. So our value proposition is more on the lines of hygiene, standardization, and this is something which on which we are getting a very good response from the customer side. So we already have a lot of customers in the areas in which we will be starting out our operations. So as Yash pointed out, that the top of the funnel, we are broadening the top of our funnel, which will convert later on. So using SMS marketing, using LinkedIn handles, using Facebook handles, we are engaging our audience, we are engaging our customers into our value proposition, and we are creating a customer base which can be easily convertible once things starts out.
Thank you so much, Lalit. So it's now time for a lot of businesses out here to focus on what they couldn't do during the day-to-day operations of their businesses, and it's now time to work on your platforms, your tech, strengthen it to manage the surge in demand that might come up once the lockdown has been lifted. Yes, same question goes to you as well. How do you effectively use digital marketing and three growth hacks that you would be using to grow your business during this lockdown?
So basically, we've one of the calls that we had made a couple of quarters ago, like 6-7 months ago, was that through any digital format or any digital asset that we have, we don't want to talk about our product or its benefits or its features or anything like that, right? So we essentially, so the number one thing that we did was we essentially want to start creating content that will help our target customers. So instead of saying that, hey, Gridle helps you send invoices better or like follow up on invoices, or Gridle helps you send proposals and XYZ. So writing content or anything around that, we started writing and we started creating content in the genre of what are the 5 tips for writing proposals that close, right? Or sending invoices where you don't have to set reminders, or what should be the reminder frequency and XYZ. So essentially identifying what questions do our customers face on a day-to-day basis, and trying to answer those questions either by ourselves or through the research that we do, or through interviews or partners that we have, right? So that was the number one thing that we did. Stop talking about the product and start talking about things that our customers actually want to know. And then in the process, if they come across the product and if they like what we have to offer, then they'll go ahead and sign up, right? So that's one. The second thing that we started doing, and this is very specific to internet businesses, but the second thing that we started doing and that's getting us traction is we started pushing our existing users to review us on different platforms, right? And so basically, let's say if you sign up on Gridle today and if you continue using it, then like 2.5 months later, you will start receiving an email from us, which will ask you to, which will actually reward you to do an honest review about the platform on different existing sites, right? So like on Trustpilot, on Capterra, on Google Reviews, and so on and so forth. So even if you go to the Gridle website, the first thing that you see after the top header is what is our rating over there, and we ask them to write honest reviews, right? So we don't say that, hey, if you write good things, then we'll give you the incentive. We ask them to write genuine and honest reviews, where they go ahead and write whatever their experience of Gridle has been, and then we would publish it even if it is negative, right? And then we would give them an incentive, and so the incentive could be in terms of X number of users free, or X amount of file space, or X number of proposals, or whatever, right? And so that incentive would build on top of the product. The third thing that we started about a month ago, and it's just started picking up for us, and hopefully it works well. And so the third thing that we started doing was, so these are the reviews, right? So these are actual reviews which are available on those websites, and if you scroll up, then just after the first kind of a fold, you will see, so these are the review platforms. It's Capterra, Google, Trustpilot. These are the top 3 kind of review platforms specifically for software, right? And analogies can be made for other sector of companies as well. The third thing that we started doing was trying to establish a distribution channel that meant that we don't have to go out and sell. And so it's been about a month since we started this. So we started building a proper affiliate platform and an affiliate community as well, where we enable other people to sell our product to their existing customers, right? Against a commission which typically ranges anywhere between 15 to 30%, depending on the time that you've been with us and depending upon the amount of sale that you've done. So I think these 3 things are working well for us now. So just to kind of review, one being writing content not necessarily to promote the product, but helping our target market and our user base. Second one being incentivizing existing users who are in love with your product. So he mentioned early adopters, right, Lalit? So early adopters are people who will buy in your product very quickly. So you'll not have to put in a lot of effort to get their buy-in, and they'll be the last ones to churn, right? So their retention is fairly easy as well. And those are the people where you want to push them to spread the good word about your product as well. And the third thing being kind of finding out what are different ways of distributing the product. So one of the good things that I had, and so this is me, I don't remember who said this, but this is me quoting someone else. So one of the good things that I had read somewhere was that first time founders are obsessed with their product, and second time founders are obsessed with their distribution channels, right? And so how do we distribute the software more is what we've been working on. So these are the top 3 things that have worked for us.
Great, Yash. So talking about my experience going on the Gridle website, the first thing that caught my eyes was that reviews that have been shared by different people. I mean, there were a lot of reviews. So one good growth hack that people can pick up from here is tell your existing clients to review you. A fair review would help you a lot to gain a lot more customer and trust of the customers who would want to join you further, right? The next question I would like to put forward to Lalit is, how can you keep your operation cycle going with the limited cash flow in these times? And where do you how do people find new avenues to grow their business with this limited capital?
Faraz, I'm sorry I'm interrupting, but I think I'll have to leave. I have another meeting in another 2 minutes.
Great. Thank you so much, Sucharita, for your time, and it was lovely hosting you. Before going, I would request you to at least ask one question to our fellow panelists that you would like to know from them as a growth hack or something that could help you in your business further.
First of all, thanks for this opportunity. It has been great coming and sharing what we have done and knowing about what Yash and Lalit have also done. And I would like to know a little bit about the hacks that, like for Lalit especially, like, you know, how since he has been targeting pretty much the same segment, however, the geographies might be different. So how have you been able to reach out to them? What was your first, since you are 2 years old, right? So you must have had some experiences that I'm sure will help us in our journey. So if you could share something of that sort, it would be great.
So one thing we realized while converting to these vendor shop was something, so they are not very open to something which is very digital. So this is like changing their traditional habits.
Correct.
So
century-old habits that we are actually questioning and asking them to change. Yeah.
So instead of approaching those vendors with in terms of cost optimization or in terms of something tech products, so we initially focused on their revenues part. So we, with the same product portfolio, we bought them some additional customers. Okay. So there, for example, there are a lot of customers in that area who are using our services. So we brought those customers to one particular shops. So once they realize that these guys are good and these guys are increasing my revenues without any additional change in their current business processes. So once we developed those trust level, then it was very easier to sell them other platforms like the digital platform, for example, the POS system. Then there's a working capital management. So initially you have to build trust with them with something that they already know. Makes sense. It worked very well with us.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Great. So Yash, one question for Sucharita, please. Since she has asked one to Lalit, I would like you to ask one to Sucharita out here.
So Yash will be asking, right?
Yeah, Yash will be asking one question to Sucharita.
Okay. So here's a question that I have. So one of the major challenges, and this is something that we also faced, right? So we wanted to be a collaboration platform for everyone, starting with a very small kind of a ticket size. But the challenge that we saw and we kind of ran away from it was that how do we get the folks to adopt to digital processes, right? And so So we tried doing that. We were not able to do it, and hence then we started focusing on agencies which already have certain amount of comfort with tech adaptability, right? Or adaptability. So how have you kind of broken that nut, and how have you gone about it?
So, it is a challenging space, I would say, like, and reaching out to customer who is not even in your city. You can't even, the only way of engagement is basically the phone or other digital platforms like Facebook and WhatsApp as well. Again, but then, yeah, I completely align that, it's a challenging space, but, trust me, things are changing. I don't know what, like maybe the cost of data right now is the lowest in the world, and people, and in the last couple of years, Facebook and WhatsApp have made people digital.
Correct.
They have started using Facebook for getting orders, WhatsApp for getting orders, Instagram again. Like especially in tier 1, tier 2 cities, you see a lot of people running businesses out of Facebook and WhatsApp. And similarly, and that thing is actually going into tier 3 cities as well. And we get people like, when we get customer calls and all that, so we realize that people are actually willing to adopt technology, and it's just, and they are so aware of technology now that they go to Play Store and compare similar apps as well, and then they call us up and tell that this is the comparison that we have done, and it's amazing, like
Oh, that's awesome. That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess things are changing, and with the turbulent times that we are in, things will change again. Like there's a new normal that will be set now. So let's see how things go on. So it has been nice interacting with you guys. Yeah. I'll take leave now.
Sure.
Thank you so much, Sucharita.
Thanks, Lalit, and thanks everyone in the audience.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yash, to take the conversation that Sucharita has brought forward, recently we came up to the news of Facebook and Jio deal, as well as in the recent times we've heard about the deal that has been stricken between Amazon as well as Future Group, and companies like Zomato, Swiggy also jumping into the retail segment. How do you see the segment shaping, and what could be a few strategies to hold on to your customer base at this point of time in the particular segment?
So whether it is this time or any other time, I think the way to hold on to your customer base is essentially just making sure that you are offering incremental value at a cost that is affordable to the customer, right? So that basic equation or formula does not change. However, one of the things that happens is because of these trying times where people cannot gather. So I foresee that essentially any kind of a business that required people to gather in one place. So think of movie theaters, so think of gyms, think of classes, think of people traveling, and so on and so forth. Anyone who's working in that industry and people who are supporting that industry, right? All of them will be pushed to pivot and change their business models. So I'll give you an example, right? So one of the key examples that came out while I was interviewing someone else for our webinar was that the gyms and the yoga studios have shut down, right? However, they are still functioning because they've now started offering classes on Zoom, right? It may be difficult for the first couple of months. However, what happens is that over a period of time, the habit forms in their customers also, right? Because for people who go to gyms or people who go to yoga studios, as an example, it becomes far more easier to be able to stay at their own place, to not have to travel. They'll have to pay lesser for the membership. The yoga studio will start charging lesser because now they don't have to have a space, and so on and so forth, right? So the business models will change. So even the amount of people that the studio could have before will increase, right? Because it was firstly limited by the real estate that they had. Now it's limited by the amount of participants that can join them on Zoom, right? And so so those business models will change, and drastically there will be a major change as well. The other thing about the deal between, let's say, Facebook and Jio and Amazon and Future Group and so on and so forth, I think that also is a way of So I think that the leaders of these organizations have realized that there is a much higher profit to be made and much higher value to be generated by joining hands with each other rather than fighting with each other. Right? So as an example, Jio has acquired n number of users really quickly, right? Since they've entered, and so one of the things that Facebook also recognizes is that India being the largest market, they would just not want to risk a third player coming in and then taking their customers away, right? And similarly, Reliance also does not want to have that fight with Facebook, right? Similarly, between Kishore Biyani and Amazon, right? And so on and so forth. So these large companies are essentially trying to, and this is a natural stage where after a point when a company becomes large enough, there is this term called where the market itself actually consolidates, right? And so this is a stage where the market is essentially consolidating, right? So instead of having fragmented services and products being offered by all of these different companies, the market itself is consolidating. So the sum of parts is much greater than parts of the sum. With the same activities, they are able to still offer incremental value. And now they don't have to fight with each other because they are partners of each other. So those are some key thoughts that I have on
that. Thank you so much, Yash. So learning for the participants we have out here is try to strike synergies with your competitors, or say people who are having relative skills that you are lacking. You can work together, combine those skills, and further leverage it for the benefit of both. Now coming back to the question, Lalit, that we asked you before Sucharita left, right? I will put forward the question once again. The question is, how do you keep the operation cycle going in this tough times for the cash flow to flow well, being limited in nature? And with the limited cash flow, how do you suggest the participants out here to grow their business?
Okay. So I'll divide this part into two segments. First of all, with the startups who have not raised their funding. Second, with the startup who raised their funding. So what we are doing, we are doing multiple things in order to check out on our cash flows. So we have increased the run rate. So run rate basically is the time the funding is being raised until what point of time we have raised the funding. So initially we planned the runway of around 1 year, but with this thing in place, we have increased the runway to 2 years. So there are a lot of things that we did in order to increase this runway. First of all, as correctly pointed out by Yash, so we are collaborating a lot with a lot of players which are already there in the market. So we are moving our fixed cost to the variable cost. So for example, initially we were planning to build the delivery applications and the delivery management platform by ourselves. Then we realized there are already players in the market like Locus, which gives the same platform at a very limited cost. So there, instead of building all things on your own, so there are already a lot of players in the market in which you can convert your fixed cost to your variable cost. Second, we are not relying much on the working capital now. So instead of acquiring bad customers, so we don't want to be involved in any credit cycle to our customers. So we are okay with some limited customers rather than the bad debt or longer working capital cycle. So we are not doing that. Third, we are focusing on the increased life cycle value of the customers. For example, previously we were delivering, let's say, tea from those refreshment vendors to the customers. Now we are adding more product portfolio in the similar supply chain. So to get to a certain revenues, we are not being dependent on a single product. Instead, we are increasing the total bucket size of the customer so that in the same cost we can have the higher revenues. So while planning things up, you need to focus when you when you need to focus on the profitability part and when you should be focusing on the expansion part. So before the COVID-19, so we were previously focusing on the expansion part, not the profitability part. But with this thing in place, now we have shifted our focus not to go in 8 market. We are good with 4 to 5 market, but instead of having, let's say, X revenue from each customer, we are targeting 1.5 to 2X revenues from the same customers. So we are keeping the target in place by making sure we are not burning a lot. And when we are going to the VCs, then we can say it loud that we have increased the bucket size in order to reach a certain scale or a certain revenue, and this numbers of profitability can be achieved very easily. So let's say after 1 or 1.5 years down the line, when things becomes normal again, then all the investors from whom we will be asking for next round of funding, then they will have this thing in mind. These guys can turn profitable whenever the situation goes bad and whenever they want to. So right now we are not focusing on the expansion part. We are focusing on the more bucket size of the customers. We are moving away from the fixed cost to the variable cost so that the sunk cost can be less in order when some experiment fails. So these 2-3 things which we are doing in order to adjust our cash flows to according to the situation.
Right. Thank you so much, Lalit. Here we need to get some takeaways in a way that focus on the existing market that you have better targeting, better revenues, 1.5x, 2x, so that you can do justice to your existing revenues and growth. Yash, I would, since you've raised 3 rounds of funding and you've raised 10 lakhs on the ideation stage as well, one of the participants here wants to know that exactly how they can raise money with the when they are at the POC or the ideation level.
Sure, got it. So to answer that question, what I would like to do is I'd like to kind of start at a level like before that, right? So the question is, the question could be that what is it that an investor is looking for, right? And then we can have a stage specific kind of a conversation, right? So there are a couple of things that the investor is looking for, right? So the first is a proof of concept. So when you start off with an idea or whatever it is that you started off with, you are making certain assumptions, right? So if I'm selling a t-shirt, I'm making an assumption that people want to wear t-shirt, people want to buy t-shirt. This will be a good option for them at the price point that I'm selling, and so on and so forth, right? So I'm making all those assumptions, right? And so proof of concept is basically where all or most of those assumptions have been validated or invalidated. So that's the first thing that an investor is looking for, right? And the second thing that an investor is looking for is a minimum viable product, right? So proof of something that works, right? In case if you're a technology product company, right? So that they can know that the team that is there is able to build it. And the third thing that they're looking for is the startup and the organization that is ready for the money. So if the money comes to them, then they will be able to take the money, invest it, and be able to grow quickly, right? So they're not looking for you to like start building a team right at that point of time, right? So they're expecting that there must be some amount of operation and the money will be used for scaling. So these are the top 3 things that an investor would want to look at, right? Now at an idea stage, you don't have most of these, right? So what's really the idea would be to try and build as much amount of trust as possible. Now, what are the things that will build trust, right? So if you don't have the product, if you don't have paying customers, if you don't have a large team that is ready to kind of take the money and start, then there are a couple of things that you can do. So the first thing to build trust is to do extensive amount of research, right? And so not the research of the Google form wala type. You send the email or link to like your friends and have them fill out multiple choice wale questions, but genuine amount of research. So when we were starting Glitter, we spoke to about 200 people in 33 companies in 14 different industry verticals, right? to be able to arrive to where we had at that point. Right? The second thing that you can do is build prototypes that are not working, right? And then show it to your potential customers in exchange of an LOI. So as an example, while I may not have the developer to be able to build the product or the first version of the product, however, I can have a graphic designer learn that skill and create wireframes of my product, and then create a clickable prototype on tools like InVision, right? Which can then show to a customer how will this product look like. And then ask for a letter of intent from the customer, which essentially says that if this product is built, then the customer might be ready to buy, right? Show those letter of intents to your investors, right? And so, or potential investors. So that again helps in establishing trust. And the third thing is that, and so this is may not be true case by case, but one of the things that worked for us was the fact that the three of us had known each other for a long time. So at the time we had known each other for 8 years, so now 13 years. At the time we had known each other for 8 years, and we had very different backgrounds. Right? So we were already good friends. We had worked on a lot of projects before. And plus I came from an investment banking background where I was essentially selling financial products, and understood how investment would work, right? So understood how financial management should be done in an organization. Anupama came from a technology background, and so she essentially was and is our chief of tech, and so she would be able to build the product. And Abhishek came from a design background, so he did bachelor's of planning and design from CEPT, and so he essentially is our head of product design. Right? So the three of us kind of had known each other for a long time, had been really good friends, had worked on projects, and also had very different backgrounds, which essentially fit like a G. So these are the three kind of key things that work for us.
So Yash has shared with us 3 hacks to raising a good funding from the investors. Right now, Lalit, I would like to know from your end as to what at this point of time, what is a better decision, a make or a buy? Should you outsource your processes, or should you keep hiring people or hold on to the people that you've hired and get work from them? What is a better strategy that could save money and at the same time not take a toll on the growth of the company?
So as a startup, I would recommend you should be only focusing on your core things, not on the ancillary things. So you need to divide all your activity into multiple parts, and you need to see if those parts can be done effectively by some other place in the market or not. So there can be 2 or 3 situations. First, let's say there are a lot of players, for example, the sales outsourcing. So instead of hiring the sales guys themselves, there are a lot of companies are there, for example, Avign for the lead generation. So there are a lot of companies out there which are specialized into those activities in which you are not going to be very effective. So I will advise you guys to divide up all the activities into multiple parts and see if there are players in the market who can do this thing for you or not. If there are not any player which can do this particular thing for you, then you need to make this decision that you have to do it. Otherwise, I would advise you guys to go for the outsourcing thing. One good example that, so right now, all our tech development is being outsourced. So there's no one in our company who's directly doing the coding part. So there's one CTO who has not joined on a permanent basis, but he's looking after the architecture part, and all the coding part is being outsourced to multiple companies. So the benefit that we are having is, for example, if we need those coders for next, let's say 1 or 2 months, then we need to hire or fire them. So there are these small things which you can do to ensure that there are not very huge fixed costs are there to you, and there are specialized people which can do the task for you in a very limited or in a very small fraction of time, then you would have done so. But if it is your core thing, so this is the DNA of your company, then it cannot be outsourced. So you have to strengthen those DNA, and you have to focus all your energies on those specific parts instead of diverting your energies to multiple other parts on which there are other players who can do this more effectively than you. So you have to identify your correct DNA for your product or services. Then you have to focus on that particular thing only, not on everything.
Lalit, before we wrap up, I would like you to ask one question to Yash.
Okay. So I think one good thing that you highlighted was which like getting honest feedback from your customers. So how this came up on the ideation stage itself, and how you guys planned it up, what benefits that in terms of what idea that you guys had in your mind when you were implementing these strategies.
So there were a couple of things, right? So one is that and this is just I mean, I'm trying to stereotype over here, but in India, I mean, people don't like to say no, right? They just not give you an answer for a long time, and then hope that you will understand. So they don't like to say no, and they don't like to be very upfront, frank, confrontational, and like say bad things to your face, right? So it's very difficult to get, when you are doing a research at an idea stage, it's very difficult to, because the other person is actually thinking that they don't want to break my heart, right? Because we were kids at the time, just out of college and stuff. So and so they don't realize that if they don't give me the correct answer right now, I'll actually waste more time, right? Basis their politeness. So the idea was that we would actually work with them and then onboard them on how an honest feedback should be given, right? So about half of the 200 people that we interviewed, as and when we start, so like after doing 25-30 interviews, we knew that there is a pattern, right? And as an engineer, we want to find patterns in things, right? That's what we. So after 25-30 answers, we were able to know that there's a pattern emerging over here. And so then what we do is in our interviews, we'd actually explain to them what would be the consequence of them not saying the truth, right? So we'd say things like, hey, अगर आप मतलब अच्छा चीज बोलोगे, तो we'll actually quit our jobs, and then we are actually going to put our savings into this, and which is true, right? And so then we make them understand that it's important for you to be true more than like be liked by us. So that was one. The other good thing was also this, that I was able to reach out to all of them with a reference, because so I was one of the student coordinators in the placement committee in the college, and so I knew HR heads of all the companies that would come to our college for placements, and so I was essentially connected to them. So it was not like me writing to them directly. There was our college professor who was a head who had connected me, and so on and so forth. So I actually had the luxury of reaching over there, sitting there, and then do the interview rather than doing it over the phone or doing it over a form. Right? So these are like a couple of things that we kind of try to deploy to get that honest feedback from them.
Great. Yash, now so one question for Lalit before we sum things up.
Okay. So here's a question that I have. So why? So I know that, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think that you're from Lucknow and you're currently in Lucknow as well. So, but why choose that as a place for starting your company, right? So why not any other city? Like, why not move out where there is better access to talent or anything like that?
So actually, I belong from Haryana. So there's a place called Bhiwani in Haryana. So I was in the last semester in IIM Lucknow.
Correct.
I was graduating in the month of April 2018. But we started working on this idea in the month of January 2018.
Okay.
So we need to stay there for 4 or 5 months. So initially, so instead of wasting those 4 or 5 months, we chose it's better to implement this thing right there in the college, in the city itself, in my college, where my college was. Okay. So I spent the most of my time in the last semester experimented on this idea. So Raghav also came back to Lucknow in the month of January only. So we were the last 3 or 4 months. So normally other of my batchmates were chilling around. They were spending their time partying around. There were a lot of सब कुछ हो रहा था, मतलब सबकी जॉब लग रही थी and everyone was chilling around. And at that point of time, we were like roaming in the market. हम सब पूरा survey कर रहे थे. Survey करने के बाद we were finding out कि what are the need gaps in the market. हमें क्या करना चाहिए, क्या नहीं करना चाहिए. So these 3-4 months we utilized in the Lucknow market.
Got it.
कि how to come up with the product. So yes, मतलब if you need to start fresh, I would advise all the attendees to focus on the geographies in which it is very easy to acquire customers and easy to acquire resources.
Okay.
But yes, so that's why after 4 or 5 months only we moved to the bigger market, Delhi. So here it was very easy to interact with the investors, get feedback on the business model, implement new strategies, finding good talent, finding new markets. So yes, it was not a very good choice for a new company to start with some laggard market. So you guys should be focusing on the best market in which you have the maximum chances of success.
Correct.
Superb. Thank you so much, guys, for all your insights, your stories, your growth hacks. Now, I would like to sum up the entire webinar as to the key points that you guys have mentioned. You've mentioned that the team is of paramount importance to the growth of the business, so choose your team wisely. The startups need to research well while starting a new business and to make sure that the research is correct so that they can get those paying clients out there. Spend time on researching and building a strong MVP. Look forward to having a good business model that lasts for a longer period of time. If you look forward to grow during work from home, trust your team and work on the ideas, brainstorm with them. Use digital marketing to get to your audience and make sure you engage them well, you grow your customer base and at the same time retain the existing clients. The current costs are reduced as mentioned by Sucharita and Yash both, so take the benefit out of it. Uh, while you guys are at home, work on the things that are important for your business that you haven't been able to focus on. Like Lalit mentioned, focus on the tech platform. He was focusing on the tech platform of the business to make sure once the lockdown is lifted, he could manage the surge in the demand that they would get. Like Yash mentioned, you can request your existing client to share a fair review of the business and the platform, and you can reward them for the same in different ways. Convert your existing clients into your sales representative. This is one good hack. The word of marketing works the best. Currently, the business models have changed, and having access to online capabilities will further change it more. Look forward to have synergies within the segment, partner with different guys, and grow your business. Like Lalit mentioned, focus on core of your business and outsource the rest that you have once you've identified the same. So guys, once again, on behalf of Devex, Startup News FYI, the Startup Lab, and our support partners, I would like to thank all our attendees for coming to the webinar and our esteemed panel for providing us their insight and guidance. We also want to thank you for your support during this webinar. We have shared a feedback link with you all in the WhatsApp group. We request you all to kindly fill the same to help us organize more webinars in the future. Thank you once again. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.